Okay, so we have started talking about part of speech tagging. In yesterday's class, we discussed about what is part of speech, gave some examples, and we also introduced the named entity tagging problem. So what we also told that the part of speech tagging problem or named entity tagging problem are instances of sequence labeling problems. And we want to look at certain tools to handle sequence labeling problems. So today I will talk briefly about hidden Markov model and conditional random field. And later in this course, we will look at neural network models or recurrent network models, which can also be used for the same purpose. Can you see my slides?
Yes.
Okay, good. So we are now going to look at methods for part of speech tagging or any sequence tagging and some of the sequence models. And we will start with hidden Markov model, which we introduced a bit in yesterday's class. So just to recap, this is the problem where we are given a sequence of words and then we have to identify the part of speech sequence which is most likely. Okay, and we can formulate this. So we can formulate this as this sort of problem that we want to find that tag sequence so that probability of tag sequence given the word sequence is highest. And by using the laws of probability, we reformulate it in terms of probability of word sequence given the tag sequence. And this is an example of a generative model. Okay. So in hidden Markov model, we make some specific assumption. Just a minute, I'm just trying to turn on my pen. Let me just try it again. Anyway, let us proceed. So as we said that so when we formulate this sequence tagging problem as a hidden Markov model problem, so what we have is a Markov model. What we assume that we have a Markov model on the tags. And as we have discussed earlier, a Markov model is one where the next state depends only on the current state or the last few states and not on the entire history. So in a bigram Markov model, the next state will only depend on the current state and the tags are the states. So for example, I am in the state adjective. So I want to figure out what is the probability that the next state will be adjective or noun or determiner or verb and so on. So this is a stochastic automata. And so this is the Markov model. And why is this called hidden? Because when we look at sentences, we do not know the tags. We only see the words. So we also have an observation probability or emission probability that is given that a particular state is noun. What is the probability of a given word? So these two sets of probabilities define the hidden Markov model. Is this understood by everybody? Okay. Now, as we said that, if we are given labeled data, we can learn these probabilities corresponding to the transition probabilities and the emission probabilities. And we also said that the standard 3 tasks are there, which people do on hidden Markov model. One is given some data, finding out what is the likelihood of that data. For example, if you are given two different interpretations, we can find out which one is more likely. The second task is decoding, that is given the set of sequence of observations. We want to find out the sequence of tags. This is called the decoding problem. And this is helpful for pause tagging. And the third problem is the learning problem, where given the observations, we want to find out the model parameters. So our focus will mainly be on the decoding problem. So suppose, but first let us talk a little bit about the first problem. Now suppose this is a stochastic automata corresponding to the part of speech tags, and we want to find out the probability of this sequence. Say proper noun, verb, determiner, noun, right? And how can we find out? We find out what is the probability that proper noun comes in the beginning of the sentence. This happens to be 0.4 here. Then we find out what is the transition probability from proper noun to verb, which happens to be 0.8. Then the transition probability from verb to determiner, which happens to be 0.25, times the transition probability from determiner to noun, which is here 0.95, and then the probability from noun to the end of the sentence, which happens to be 0.1. So multiplying this, we get the likelihood of this tag sequence. Now, we also want to find out, what is the probability of a sequence of words. Suppose we have the sequence of words, dogs chase cats, and we want to find out what is the probability of this sentence. So by applying this model, this is a type of Bayesian model. So what do we find out? We find out the probability of start given noun times probability of dogs given noun times probability of verb given noun times probability of chase given verb, and so on, right? So given the conditional independences which are encoded in the Bayesian model corresponding to the hidden Markov model, we can find out the probability of a word sequence, and which is worked out here. So is it okay with everyone? Has everybody understood this?
Ma'am?
Yeah.
Ma'am, for finding probability of sentence W1 to Wn, we have to sum over all the possible T1 to Tn, right?
Not sum. We are finding the probability, so I'm taking the product. Right? It is and. It's not sum, it is and. So
basically we have to find P of W1 Wn, which is equals to P of W1 to Wn given T1 to Tn into probability of T1 to Tn, summation over all possible T1 to Tn.
No. There's no possible there's only one sequence given, W1, W2, Wn, and we want to find out its probability. Now, given, so suppose if, yeah, you are right. So if we knew that, dogs belongs to noun, chase belongs to verb, cats is noun, and, dot is end of sentence, then this is what we can work out. Okay, this is given the tagging for this sentence. Yes, you are right. The decoding problem is where you are given a particular sequence and you want to find out the most likely tag sequence. So in this case, we are finding out the observation likelihood given that we know the given tag sequence and the word sequence.
Yes, ma'am. And we don't know the tag sequence, right?
If you don't know, that's what we are coming to. That is the decoding problem.
If we don't know, then the decoding problem will find the one which is most likely, right? But to find the probability of sentence, we should not just take the most likely one. We should multiply it with its probability and sum over all possible sequences.
Right. You're absolutely right. And so if you are not given the tag sequence, you have to take the marginal probability. Because, for example, dogs could be noun or adjective. Let us say chase could be verb or noun. And there could be multiple ways of decoding this sentence with different probabilities. And we have to marginalize over all the probabilities. Right? So you are very right. And this is again posed as a dynamic programming problem. And we can solve it by taking the summation. Unfortunately, I don't know why today this is not working. The pen is not working. Just a minute. Let me try to figure out. Anybody has a clue why this?
Ma'am, so what you are writing is not being visible to us.
I know. Figure out. Let me try another view. Huh?
Ma'am, you can stop sharing these slides and share your entire screen, and then that will be helpful.
Can you see my screen now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me see if I can write. So, yeah, let me just tell you what we can do for the problem that we talked about. So what we can, let me get a platform. Now, so what we have is, we have this sentence, suppose dogs chase cats. And we have, these are the possibilities. Suppose dogs can be noun or adjective or verb. I mean, let us just say that these are the three possibilities. So, dogs could be noun. Let us say, for noun, the probability of dogs is, this is emission probability. Suppose it is 0.9. For adjective to dogs, suppose is 0.1, and verb to dogs is 0. Okay, and start to noun is something. Start to adjective, start to verb, we have some probability. Now, when we come here, what is the probability that dogs is the first word? It is summation over probability of, say, pi is the probability that noun is the first tag times noun to dogs plus pi j times j to dogs plus pi verb times verb to dogs. Okay, is this okay? So this is, I get the probability that dogs is the first word. Now I come to chase. Now chase can be noun or adjective or verb, and we have the emission probabilities and we have the transition probability. So suppose, so we have this these probabilities here that we have computed, that dogs is a noun, dogs is a adjective, dogs is a verb. That is each of these terms. So this is this term, this is this term, this is this term. So we have computed this term, say 0.9 into this emission probability, then this 0.1 into this emission probability, etc. So these probabilities are computed. Now we come to chase. Chase can be noun, adjective, or verb. Let us see chase as noun. So if chase is noun, chase would have been a noun and it can be followed by dogs. It can be following dogs as noun or dogs as adjective or dogs as verb. Okay. So if we want to compute what is the probability that chase is a noun following dogs as a noun, we take this probability, multiply by the transition probability from noun to noun. Then we take this probability here and multiply by the transition probability verb to noun. Then take this probability and multiply the transition probability from verb to noun. And we take the summation. And with this, we take the product of the emission probability, that is noun to chase. Similarly, we can find this value here, this value here. Okay. Is this okay with everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
And similarly, then we can look at this third column, and for cats as noun, cats as adjective, cats as verb, we can say cats as adjective can come from here or here or here. And we take the summation of these probabilities as you have suggested and take the product with the emission probability here. So like this, by using a dynamic programming problem, we can figure out if we do not know the tags. Okay. I did not talk about this because I thought that we'll just go with the decoder. Right? So this observation likelihood, if you are given the tags, we know how to compute it. But if we do not know the tags, as you have rightly said, we have to marginalize over all possible tags. And we can do efficiently using a dynamic programming app. Okay. So let us look into the decoding problem. Now the decoding problem is where we are given a sequence of words and we want to find out most likely sequence of tags, one most likely sequence of tags. And as you have rightly pointed out, if you want to just find out the observation probability, we actually have to take the summation over all possible sequences of tags and the corresponding probability. But in this problem, we want to find out the most likely sequence of tags. And in this case, we assume that the model parameters are given and we want to find out the most likely hidden states sequence that produce this observation sequence. So we assume that each state has a tag and we want to find out the globally best assignment of tag sequence. And for this, we use a approach like this. Again, I have talked about it in a little high level, but if you wish, we can discuss in more detail. Suppose these are the words. So this is my W1, W2, W3, W4, W5, and W6. And these are the possible parts of speech tag. We are just showing 5 of them. There could be more. So now the first word could have been noun, could have been adjective, could have been verb, could have been left bracket, could have been right bracket. Okay. So interest. So this sentence is, whatever this sentence is, natural language processing NLP, right? This was the sentence, and let us say W1 could have been any of these tags. So, and W2 could be any of these tags, etc. Now, we want to find out the most likely tag sequence. Now, at this position 1, we find out what is the probability that the tag sequence is noun and the observed is natural. Or what is the probability that the tag sequence is adjective and the word is natural. So at the first word level, first position in the sequence, we find all these probabilities. Now, after we have found this probability, next we come to the second column. In the second column, we want to find out what is the probability that word 2 is a noun, right? Now, can you suggest how we can find out the probability that actually it's not in isolation, but we want to find out the most likely tag sequence of word 1 and word 2, given that word 1 is natural and word 2 is language. So, can you tell me how to go about it? So how would we find this probability? So let me just come to this formulation. Suppose we are given the sequence of observations. In this case, the observations are the different words W1, W2, WT, and Q1 is the tag of W1, Q1, Q2, QT are the tag sequence of W1, and we have to find out what these are. So Q1, Q2, QT are variables. Now, so we want to compute this joint probability of O and Q. O are the observation sequence and Q is the tag sequence, which is the probability of Q0, Q1, Q2, QT. And given that Qt equal to Sj and O1, O2, OT. So we want to find out, what is the probability that my, when I'm looking at this second column, I want to find out the joint probability of the observation and tag sequence with the current tag being noun. So we want to look at the, for each of these things, we want to look at what is the joint probability with the current tag being noun, what is the probability with the current tag being adjective, and so on. Okay. And we will find out this BTJ, we will define it to be the maximum over all tags of this joint probability. So when we want to find out the post tagging problem, we want to find out the best tag sequence for which this probability is the highest. So we can say BTJ is the probability of the most probable path accounting for the first T observations and ending in state Sg. So let us look at this picture. Suppose we want to find out what is the probability of that, we have a tag sequence which has noun for the second word. Or what is the probability of the tag sequence which has adjective for the second word, right? Now, if noun is the tag of the second word, noun could have been the tag, but the first tag could have been noun, could have been adjective, could have been verb, could have been LRB, could have been RRB, etc. Okay. So when we want to find the best probability, what can we do? Can you suggest?
We can use the maximum of those 5.
Correct. So absolutely. So we could have got noun as noun to noun or adjective to noun. So for each of these, so we find out the probability of the path start to noun, start to adjective to noun, start to verb to noun, left right bracket to noun, right bracket. So we find all these probabilities and take the highest, find the highest of them. And if we find that from adjective to noun, this probability is the highest, then we keep a back pointer that we keep this probability of this noun in this cell, and we keep the back pointer from which state we are getting this highest probability. Okay, and that we find out this probability for all these states. Now, after we have found all these probabilities, suppose we find that this has the highest probability. Okay, so we have found all these probabilities. We find that verb has the highest probability here. So my question is, can I ignore the other states and take verb and then proceed? If I have found the highest probability of the path stopping at verb at the second word, and this is not the final word, can we just take that state and ignore all the states for further processing?
No, ma'am, because previous states also have transition probabilities which will get multiplied.
The previous states we already have accounted for. Probability of the previous we have accounted for, but by looking at only 1 or 2 or 3 words, we cannot find a global view of what the next word will be, right? So given the rest of the sentence, my possibility may change. Okay, I will give an example. I'm just writing some sentence. Suppose you get the. What is the part of speech of the most likely?
Determined.
It's determined. Then I find old. What is the most likely part of speech of old in this sentence? In this partial sentence?
Adjective.
Adjective. Then I find man. What is the most probable part of speech of this given the old man?
No.
Then I find the. And then I see boat. Now, given this sentence, can you find a possible pause tagging of this sentence? Globally, after we have seen this is the end of the sentence. Now tell me what is the most likely tag of the? Yeah, what is the most likely tag of the?
Now it will still be adjective.
Till the
Sorry, determiner.
old
That will be adjective.
adjective. Man,
Noun.
man,
Noun.
I guess the entire old man is the adjective. No, is the noun.
right. No, how can it be a noun? If I say noun, a sentence has a verb. Where is the verb in the sentence? Every sentence will have to have a verb. So can you think of an interpretation of this sentence? You have to find the verb in the sentence. What is the verb?
Man is the
Man is the one.
Right. So, this sentence, this man will be the verb. And then the old will be noun. The is determiner and boat is noun. So if you look at the entire sentence, the best possible interpretation is old is noun, man is verb, the is determiner, boat is noun. When you look at the global sentence, you can find the best possible tag sequence. But when you look at a partial sentence, there old is more likely to be an adjective. Right? By frequency, old is more likely to be an adjective, but old, every adjective can also be a noun. Right? Man is both a noun and a verb. Man is more frequently noun. But in this sentence, because there is no other word, man is the verb. So yeah, so this is that. So what I'm saying is that you have to keep around all these probabilities, but you can find out, what is the path for which ending in this probability is the highest. Then after you have found these values, you come to the third column, and then you find out the highest probability path that ends with noun, the highest probability path that ends with adjective, and so on. And you keep all this. And how do we find out? You find out, all these possibilities and take the max out of that. And that tag from which you found the max, you keep a pointer to that. Okay. So this algorithm is called the Viterbi algorithm. So what we are trying to do is that we find out this probability. This is for a particular column T. We find out the probability of the previous tag sequence and observation sequences given that Qt equal to Sj. Okay. And we find this using the dynamic programming algorithm by the max that I talked about in already. And along that, from that state where we found the max, we also record the back pointer. So for every cell, we also store the previous state from which we obtained this maximum probability. So this summarizes the computation that we perform. So first we initialize. This is for the first column. For the first column, V1j is A0j. What is A0j? It is the probability that the first tag in the sentence is j. And then BJ01. What is BJ01? It is that the jth tag, the emission is O1. O1 is my first word. So this is the initialization of the first column. Then after we have filled up the T-1th column, we can fill up the Tth column, and that we do recursively. So we find out VTJ. VTJ is what we have defined here. VTJ is max. I take the max over all the possible tags. There are n possible tags. So I look at the previous column, Vt minus 1i, I corresponding to the ith state in the previous column. Then multiply the transition probability I to j, and BJOT is the probability of getting the word OT from the tag j in the currents column. Okay. So given the previous column, we can find out the values of each cell in the current column. Okay. And we take max to find the most probable path, because as we said that when we want to look at the observation probability, we look at all possibilities. That is why we had taken some. But here we want to find out the highest probability path, so we take the max. And we continue till the last column, and at termination we find out the most probable, highest probability of Vt plus 1 SF, that is the last column. And at that last column, I take the maximum over the values that I have got in the previous column. So capital T is the last word in the sentence, and we find out the max of all the cells in the last column. And after we have found that, then we use the back pointers that we have kept in order to find out the tag sequence. Is this clear to you? The idea of this algorithm? So this is about how we compute the back pointers. So the back pointer is computed by finding that value of the cell for which the probability is the highest. And finally, we follow the back pointers to find out the most probable tag sequence. So this is this algorithm uses just computes this matrix, which has the number of rows is equal to the number of tags, and then the number of columns is the number of words in the sentence, and a particular cell will compute the probability of the given the word sequence up to now, and the probability that this ith word has the tag SG, and the maximum way that it can get this. Okay. And then after we have computed this for every cell, we not only have the probability values, we also have the value of BTJ, which tells you from which cell we got the highest probability value, which looks like this. And starting from SF, we can follow this in order to retrieve the highest probability tag sequence. Okay. So this is in brief how hidden Markov model is used for part of speech tagging. Any questions?
Have the best probability.
Any questions? I cannot hear you. Okay, so now we look at another model very briefly. This model is called conditional random field. Now, before we talk about conditional random field, let us summarize the type of model which we took into account for hidden Markov model. So we assume that the tags form a stochastic Markov chain, forms a Markov chain, and we have a generative model where we assume that the words are generated from the tags independent of everything given the current tag. So HMM model, it captures the dependencies between each state and only its corresponding observation. And we cannot elegantly represent multiple interactive features, right? If you want to take into account many other things, or we cannot take into account long-range dependencies between the observed elements. These are some drawbacks of hidden Markov model, though it is a very nice and elegant algorithm. Now, before we proceed, we have talked a little bit about it, but let us look at two types of machine learning models, supervised machine learning models, generative models and discriminative models. In generative model, we find out a model by which we try to model the process by which the data is generated. And through that, then we find out how to categorize or label a particular data. So naive Bayes, as we have seen, is an example of generative model, and so is a hidden Markov model. On the other hand, a discriminative model, it directly estimates the probability without trying to model the generative process. So for generative model, we try to find out the joint distribution of y and x, whereas in discriminative model, we do not care about the joint distribution, but we directly model probability of y given x. Now, we will talk about CRF, which is a generative model for the such sequence tagging task. And in a conditional random field, we formulate this model as probability of y given x. Y is the output tag sequence, x is the input tag sequence for the case of pause tagging. We say that this is of this form. Right? we say it is of this form where, so in all this process, when we are looking at this tagging process, we are looking at some network of some variables. What are the variables that are of our interest? It is the tag and the word. So QI is the possible tag of the ith word, and WI is the ith word. So if I have a sentence of length capital T, I have Q1, Q2, Q3, Q capital T, and each of these Qs can take values from any of the part of speech tags. And I have my words W1, W2, W2. Now this is my total set of variables. And what we are trying to do when we are trying to find the probability, we are trying to compute these probabilities. Okay. And when we had this hidden Markov model, we found out how to compute these probabilities, because in hidden Markov model, we had a model which was like this. And we found out that we can compute if we knew all the values, if we knew the tags, then we found out how to compute this probability by finding the product of these terms. Now, in a CRF, the model that we look at, we look at a graph, a connections between these variables. But the model that we follow, these connections are not directed. Right? So in hidden Markov model, we have these directed connections, but in CRF, we consider a graph where the connections are not directed. And we find out a way to come up with a probability of y given x from this model. And we will discuss this detail later. So these are naive-Bayes, HMM, generative directed model. These are some examples of generative models. And logistic regression is an example of a discriminative method. Conditional random field and general linear conditional random field and general CRF are other examples. Now, a CRF is a Markov network. What is a Markov network? As I said, we have these variables. And even though I will not go into details because this is not a machine learning course, there are two types of networks which we can define on the variables if we want to make use of the conditional independences that are encoded in the network to make our process of computing these probabilities tractable. So one of the mechanisms is using Bayesian network, which have these directed edges. The other possibility is to use undirected networks such as Markov networks. So Markov networks are undirected graph over a set of variables where an edge represents a dependency. Now, if we have an arbitrary graph of different variables, suppose this is a particular variable, so we can look at all the variables which are directly connected with this variable. So if we do not assume any conditional independence, all the variables will be connected to each other. But if we account for certain structure in the domain, so a variable may be connected with only a few variables. And those variables form a Markov blanket of this variable x. Right? And the property of a Markov network is that every node is conditionally independent of other nodes in the network, given that you know the values of the variables which are in its Markov blanket. Now, if we consider such a Markov network where we have variables and some undirected edges, then the probability distribution is assumed to be of this form. In a Bayesian network, you can directly get the probabilities. Here, we do not directly get the probabilities, but we define a way of getting something which can be interpreted as probability. So for that, what we do is that given this network, we find the maximum clicks in the network. Right? What is a click? A click is if you have a graph we find a subgraph which is completely connected. So for each click, we define a potential function, some function, and this function we said is an exponential over, over the variables here. And based on that, we write, we find out this probability of a particular y as product of the potentials of the different clicks, and we normalize by dividing by z so that what we get follows the properties of a probability distribution. I know, I'm not able to go into a lot of details, so it may not be, you may not be following very clearly. I'm trying to give you a high level understanding so that you can know how to use a conditional random field. So suppose we have a graph comprising of these variables y1, y2, y3. We can say the probability of y1, y2, y3 is a product of the potential function of y1, y2, function on y2, y3, function on y1, y3. So we take some clicks and we express this probability as proportional to the product of the potential of these clicks. And then it is proportional. So we want to add a normalizing factor so that it can be treated as a probability distribution. Now, so with this brief background, let us see how this can be used for sequence labeling tasks. So just to look back, in a named entity recognition problem, we want to identify and classify, suppose, the proper names in the text. So in this case, the observations are the words that we have got, and the underlying sequence of states are the tags that we have. And we have already discussed how for named entities tagging problem, how we can label the states using VIO notation. Now, how do we express these probabilities in a conditional random field? Now, conditional random field, before we come to conditional random field, let us point out some drawbacks of an HMM. In HMM, we have a graph to encode the relations that we are taking into account. And the relations that we take into account in hidden Markov model are state to state transition and state to word or emission probability, right? And the drawbacks are it does not model long range dependency and it cannot represent features of the words, word sequences, etc. Now, in contrast, so we have talked about generals here. Now, let us come to a very simple conditional random field, which is modeled on similar lines as HMM. This is a linear chain conditional random field. In this linear chain conditional random field, if we consider the y's and the x's, the y's are the tags and the x's are the words, we just, we just mirror what we have in HMM. And we have the edges between yt minus 1 and yt and xt. There is a difference. The edges are undirected edges. Now, so what we can do in a linear chain CRF is that we can, if we consider this sort of a graph, we can define different features. And the features usually for a linear chain CRF will be based on the connections. So for example, we can have features which is based on yt, which is the current state or current tag, xt, which is the current observation and the previous tag. Right? So features can in general be a function of these three. We can have features which are only functions of yt minus 1, or only yt, xt, or all of them, right? For example, if we follow the HMM model, we can have a feature that yt minus 1 is noun and yt is verb. So this is capturing the word to noun transition. Similarly, we can mirror the features that we have in HMM, that the tag is noun and the word is book. But in addition, we can have other types of features. Let me see. For example, we could use some features of the word. We can say, is the word capitalized? Does the word start with a number? Does the word have a suffix ed? Okay. Does the previous word have a capital letter? So we can add these features and we can consider, we can define a number of features. We can define the features that we have in HMM, which is previous tag and current tag, current tag and current word. But in addition, we can have all these features. Does the word end in ET? Okay. Does the previous tag repeat the current tag? So we can add as many features as we want. And then we can define this function as a weighted summation of these features. Okay. And then we can model this probability distribution as normalized based on exponential of this function. So a conditional random field enables us to use different features that we find are useful for the task at hand. Whether it is a part of speech tagging, if we could have a feature, does the word end in ing? Does the word end in ed? If it is a, let us say, place name, I want to find location name, I can have a feature, does the word end in pur? Is the word capitalized? So based on the, what we are trying to do, we can use our domain knowledge to define features. So actually what we can do, if we have different word features, we can think of that instead of having, yi, x, y, undirect, yt, xt link, we can, for xt, we can look at different features like, is it capitalized? Does the word have more than 4 letters? Does it have end in ing? So we can use all these features and we can use them together. Okay. So this, the ability to add features helps us to get more domain knowledge, and that is why for different tasks such as named entity recognition, CRF is found to be more powerful than HMM. For pause tagging task for a language like English, even HMM is very effective. HMM, CRF, all of them have similar, performances. However, when we go for a part of speech tagging of a complex language or where there is not a lot of annotation data, and especially for different named entity tagging tasks, CRF with the addition of different features is found to do much better than HMM. And we can enhance linear chain CRF by also having features which are strictly not only previous tag to the current tag or current tag to current word. For example, we can look at the previous words and so on. And then there are other variations of CRF. But CRF is a tool which is very useful for these sequence tagging tasks, such as part of speech tagging, named entity recognition, and also other tasks such as noun phrase chunking, semantic role labeling, etc. However, in general, CRFs are slower to train than HMM, but when we have linear chain CRFs, their training time is similar to the HMM training time. So we can have certain constraints on the form of the graph of the CRF so that we can also get, HMM is very efficient because of the dynamic programming algorithm that we get. CRFs with some structured properties can also be very efficient. And compared to HMM, they are the method of choice for named entity labeling. In fact, CRFs are very effective for named entity recognition and these tasks. And they are also the preferred tasks in most of the cases. So if you want to use CRF for NER, first you take this NER problem and you can, put it in some notation, and then you can identify the features that you are interested in. For example, suppose we want to look at these entity types: drug, company, movie, place, person, and these are some examples of drugs. So, if you look at this word, for example, there's some things about the word like ZOLE, OXA, that gives you a clue that it might be a drug. If you look at, Weathersfield, it gives a clue that it could be a company name or a place name, and so on. So if you look at this, suppose in India, if you look at these things like Ghar, Pool, these are some indications that these could be names of places. So all these things can be taken into account. Suppose you get a name and you want to identify whether it's an Indian name or an East European name or a Christian name or I don't know. So the form of the name and the orthography, from that you can have features which can help you in this. Then for different types of entities like drugs, RNAs, etc., the shape of the word gives you some clue. What are the digits? What are the capitalizations, hyphenations in the word? That gives you an information about whether it is likely to be a drug name or a protein name, etc. So the shapes of the words are also used as features for various NER tasks. So with this brief introduction to CRF and NER, we stop today. So you might have a lot of questions.